Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 3484 Southeast 81st Avenue here in Hillsboro. I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front of the house, or the front door of the house anyway. We've got it's got a 4-inch, or actually it's a 3.5-inch cap actually. But the line itself here, the cleanout is actually 3-inch diameter. ABS pipe. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. We're going to zero out at the base of the cleanout access, and off we go. And this is covered up by a little brass plate right there. Look at that deep cleanout. Dang. Feels like I'm dropping into a basement. That's quite a deep sewer line there. Alright, zeroed out. Line swaps over immediately upon access to 3034 PVC. You've got a fair amount of excess pipe glue in the line right here. In fact, it's both top and bottom and in the flow line. And that is stuff I do recommend cleaning out of there. Especially the stuff in the flow line. That can snag debris up a lot easier than you'd think. And sometimes that junk breaks loose on its own naturally. It's kind of, we'll see what happens now that the camera's going to the line. It may knock that junk loose. There goes a piece right there, in fact. And you got a little substance sticking off these joints here, but the joint otherwise looks buttoned up tight. What you often get on brand new construction like this, there's a substance called, it's called a few different things, but it's often referred to as duck butter. It's a grease substance, kind of like Vaseline. They grease up the pipe ends, and when they shove them into the coupler, it allows the pipe ends to slam home all the way and butt right up against each other nice and flush. So it's not uncommon to have, if you goop a little bit too much on there, some of it will squeeze through the pipe joint. The coloration of that substance, the way it's sticking out of the joint, is not indicative of what dirt looks like when it comes to a pipe joint. Regular old dirt or clay, for that matter. Get a different appearance. Now, there's the main there at 46 feet. We're going to go turn the water off here, let the line drain out. We're also going to go locate the camera head, verify where the line terminates. Then we'll pull back and take another look at everything. Thus far, other than some pipe glue in the line itself here is looking good so far, but we will get a better view here shortly. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Southeast 81st. And if you're really curious, the route, this line is actually very unexciting. The line basically runs dead straight. But at the street curb, if you walk straight out from the cleanout to the street, you'll see an S stamped in the concrete. That stands for sewer. That's right where your sewer line crosses into the road, in case you're curious. You'll see another one that says D on it, and that stands for, that's your storm drain. Alright, I just went upstairs and did a few different toilet flushes to get a bunch of gravity behind that flush and help push any of that loose glue out of the way. A little bit of water trickling through the line right now. Right now my camera is upside down, in case you're wondering why the water is at the top of the pipe. Or the top of the screen anyway, I should say. Yeah, looks like we got some of that junk to bust loose there. So I'm noticing here it's very, very subtle. You don't look at sewer lines all day, you probably hardly noticing what I'm talking about, but there is just the ever so slightest amount of standing water in the flow line in the 3034. Granted, a little bit of that is the flapper still trickling off. I noticed the signs of that when we were first running out. It's very subtle. I mean, we're talking like a 32nd of an inch. That is not the kind of standing water, even for new construction, I would recommend you go tearing the whole line out for. If this weren't brand spanking new, I would not even be talking about what I'm seeing right now. The reason I mention it is sometimes these lines can still be in a state of settling. It depends on when the line went in. 9.9 times out of 10, when I come back and look at these things about a year later, about 9-10 months later, they look exactly the same. But I do catch a handful of them that do progress. It's fairly uncommon, but it does happen. Most settling happens almost instantaneously after a line is buried. So in this joint here, once again, if you take a look at it, what you're looking at there is kind of a white, greasy substance. That's not what dirt looks like. And if you look at the joint, that thing is buttoned up as tight as it can be. So that all looks just like duck butter there. Pretty common thing to see. But as you can see at this point here, that all the water we've ran should be completely stopped at this point. You have just a sliver of standing water. So this is one, in my opinion, that's too minor, even for new construction, to go tearing the sewer line out. But what I do highly recommend you do is rescope the sewer line at about 9 months into that 1-year warranty. Give the line a chance to sit for a moment. And if this thing's already been in the ground for a long period of time, that's probably all you're ever going to see there. But if we see any obvious changes or anything like that in that span of time, even if it's gone, good heavens. Well, that thing busted loose under a toilet flush. That looks like someone put a paper towel down the line. Or cleaning wipes or something. I'm going to pull the camera back for just a moment and do one more toilet flush to make sure that there isn't more of that stuff. Alright, I just did a flush from every toilet there just to make sure that stuff gets pushed on through. That's kind of a stubborn chunk of glue there. Thing doesn't want to break loose. It may very well. I'd like to see that glue removed though. You don't need that causing problems. You've also got a chunk of it right here, right as you drop in. My camera kind of catches on it when you first drop into the line. I have to push pretty hard to get my camera to pop over that. So ideally you get either an auger in here. Sometimes it requires an auger, some with a lot of abrasive force to actually rip that stuff loose. Sometimes a jetter will hardly do anything to that. I would recommend the line be cleaned to remove that. I'd recommend rescoping afterwards to check the work. Make sure it's gone. And then again, I recommend rescoping the sewer line at the, just shy of the 1-year warranty. Get, 9 months down the road. I wanted to measure this thing. This is almost, you're about 10 feet deep at the foundation. That is way down there. Now that tells you the kind of trench you'd have to dig here to correct that standing water that's in there. That, in my opinion, is not worth messing with, not unless we see progression. But if we see any progression, if we see that it's gone from a 32nd of an inch to even a 1/4 of an inch at that point in time, I would recommend it be fixed, because you don't know at what point it's going to stop. So that level of standing water there has almost no bearing on functionality or flow at all. The only kind of stuff you will see consistently hanging up in standing water that minor, and it will build up anywhere in your sewer line, but it concentrates when it hits water, is cooking oil and grease. It's stuff that shouldn't go down your line to begin with. But if you put a lot of it down the line, grease and oil do like to concentrate in standing water. One, it cools down rapidly when it hits the water. Two, the fat floats to the top of the water and starts to collect to the sidewalls. Anyway, if you subtract the chunks of glue from the equation, you have good flow to the main lateral. All the pipe we just scoped there, all of it appears to be buttoned up tight, good in condition, and intact. But I would make sure it gets re-scoped after the cleaning is done. There's a lot of houses in these projects. I've been doing this for 13 years. I can't tell you how many times someone's gone out to clean a line and they accidentally clean the house next door or a different house. So it's worth re-scoping. And then make sure you take another look at it about 9 months down the road. Look for any progression or changes there.